things to kill him.
So you guys, it's almost Christmas. On behalf of me and all the alternalities, let me wish you a very happy holidays. And I hope that Santa brings you some good swag, because we all know Christmas is all about the presents. So to help you celebrate, I did an extra long review, so enjoy. You've seen the thumbnail, you've seen the title, so you all know what territory we're in here, right? I mean, we're in the realm of Sharknado, Transmorphers, The Day the Earth Stopped, and yes, we are dealing with mockbusters. Hi, and welcome back to the inside of my head and my new segment called Craptastic. Believe me, these movies are hilarious, but also god awful. And also, I figure most people don't want to actually sit through these things themselves, right? So, let me do it for you. And where better to start with blatant Pacific Rim knockoff, Atlantic Rim. A movie which has all the hallmarks of a mockbuster great. Strange writing, terrible acting.
You're sick.
Shut up. And CGI that looks like it came from the early 90s. Why is it moving like that? Is it having a seizure? So I don't think I need to summarize the concept here, right? It really is just lifted straight out of Pacific Rim. Kaiju attack, people come up with giant robots to fight them. Simple. The biggest name in this movie is Graham Greene, who you might recognize from Dances with Wolves or Green Mile. He's also in Antlers, which I haven't seen yet, but it looks pretty good. But when you watch this movie, those titles seem like a tiny speck in the rear view. And this is him at his most triazepammed out, running on autopilot. I'm old and have bills to pay. It's a real no fucks left to give performance.
Holy crap, what the hell is that?
It's as if someone's told him, like, you know that acting thing that you do really well? We don't need that. Because he really keeps the acting to an absolute minimum. There's only one scene that I can think of where he's not doing exactly this face. Boop. He plays Admiral Grumpy Pants, the usual Navy Admiral cardboard cutout character who has to oversee a military project called Armada, which is basically Project Giant F***ing Robots. Now, unlike Pacific Rim, like I said, where humans start building robots as a response to kaiju incursions, these guys don't seem to be aware of the kaiju yet. They just seem to have these robots lying around in a barn somewhere, and then these giant monsters show up and it's like, oh, it's handy we've got these big robots in this air hangar over here. Anyway, we start out on an oil rig that's just mysteriously spilled its guts into the ocean, so they send a sub down to investigate before they lose contact with the sub and... This leaps out of the ocean, and I already know that I am gonna love this. Look at this thing. I love creature design and robot design, and this thing just don't look right. The proportions of its head and body are all wrong. It's got these little flippers, and like in terms of body shape, it's more like a horse sometimes. But if you don't like the design of this kaiju, don't worry, because it's literally the only design they could be asked to come up with. But anyway, let's come back to that, and let's just have a look at this first minute of the movie for a second. There's these two up on the oil rig. Mr. My day's going real bad and I'm kind of angry about it, and Miss...
I don't know, maybe we've hit a rock.
That's her verdict as a qualified marine engineer or whatever it is she's supposed to be. Maybe we've hit a rock. There's at least one instance in this scene where they've laid really loud sound effects over the dialogue without the actors reacting to it in any way, which is weird as fuck. Do it again. And that's intercut with the interior of this submarine, which looks like they've just shoved two actresses into a closet and put a few screens around them to make the place feel high-tech.
We're at the bottom of the ocean.
You're clearly not, though! Do these two really look like a capable, experienced submariner crew to you? I mean, look at this, they're looking at a map of the world! Look, here's the UK, here's Scandinavia, here's Africa. What are they trying to figure out which ocean they're in? But wait, I'm not done. And see this pipe here, which is supposed to make it feel industrial and mechanical? Well, this isn't the only time it pops up, let's just say. And you know what? This pipe gives far the best performance in this scene. It's far less wooden than these two. Boop. The monster attacks the oil rig and the whole thing disappears. So they send in these guys to investigate. The wetsuit-clad pilots of Project Armada. And the low-rent Jaegers called Red, Blue, and Green, I think their names are. Did I mention they're wearing wetsuits? Like, remember those awesome suits from the beginning of Pacific Rim? Well, wetsuits. And they don't even seem to fit properly. Anyway, we have our square-jawed Michael Biehn on a budget hero who seems so erratic I wonder if he's on actual real-life crack. If anything, I think this character is supposed to be like a watered-down version of Charlie Sheen.
And just be like, dude, can't handle it. Unplug this bastard, yeah?
He has great one-liners like,
I'll kick your ass so fast, you don't know what hit you.
And
Who's the bitch now?
also,
I guarantee you're gonna be in Siberia within 1 week watching pale polar bears mate.
and he seems to love leching on this woman here. Like, they seem to be in a relationship, but she really doesn't like him touching her or speaking to her, or she just doesn't like the guy.
What's up, baby?
Hi. Good job.
Like, he spends half the movie slobbering all over her, and she's just like...
Thank God.
Now, there is a story reason later on that might explain why she's so kind of, like, icky around him. So it could be that. Or it could be the fact that he keeps doing shit like this.
See you on the boss, bitches.
Anyway, finally we get our first look at the robots, and oh, what the fuck? Look at the face of this thing. What's with the eyes? Why are the eyes like that? Then they get into their robots, and at least they put a little bit more effort into the cockpits of these things than they did with the submarine from the first scene. But oh look, there's that silver pipe again, and wait, is this the same? Like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is the same set for all three cockpits. Like, it is the same set. They've just changed the color of the lighting and put up some different fucking Christmas lights right here. But seriously, I cannot get over how distracting this fucking pipe is. Can you imagine the set designer showing up on day one going, oh, you said my sets didn't look authentic enough? Well, look what I just broke off the wall of that newsagent. Anyway, so they're gearing up to leave, and then the camera pulls out, and you realize that the cockpit is in the chest. Now, that really weirded me out. Like, it's not a bad thing exactly. It's just a little strange. Like, what's the point of the head? What's the point of having a head if you're not going to have the cockpit in there? Surely the one point of having a humanoid-shaped robot was because it replicates the movement of these pilots, right? So the pilots can then throw a punch, and then the robot actually throws a punch. But how does that work if the fucking pilot's in the chest? It doesn't relate anymore. Oh, I guess maybe this is not such a big deal. It's just fucking strange. Why? I don't know. Did they just save a buck by having a less complicated camera move coming out of the chest to show the wide position? Or was it... I don't get it. Why? And oh my God, there's that face again, you poor, ugly bastard. So they head down to the ocean floor and find the wreckage of the oil rig, and there's a whole long, like really long, drawn-out sequence of them looking for this big, mysterious thing they can see on sonar but not get a visual on. There's some really weird dialogue.
Then some underwater phenomenon then.
What kind of phenomenon?
I don't know, sir.
Well, that's no damn help, is it?
Understood, sir.
Bluebot has a chance to shoot whatever this thing is, but Redbot stands in front of her to block the shot, and why he did that, God only knows. And this is all before Admiral Grumpy Pants gets all pissed off that this guy disobeyed a direct order, or something, before he orders the bots shut down. Imagine being in a deep-sea submarine and someone just turns the power off because, nah, they annoyed me. But luckily, Redbot is out of range and can't be shut down, so he's left to take on the monster by himself. And here we go, who's the big monster first? This animation is really ropey. Like, I know it's low budget, but nothing here is moving remotely naturalistically. It's edited so randomly too. Like the placing of the cuts are clearly to avoid you seeing how shit the shot looks and makes it horrible to watch. And of course, it's a pretty half-assed CG battle. The highlight for me being when the kaiju bites his arm just as his railgun's about to go off, and it wildly swings over here to this building and takes out this fucking whole building like that was probably a hospital. So Redbot holds the creature's mouth open, and an F-18 piloted by this guy fires a missile down its throat. And where do I even start with this sequence?
Oh yeah, 50 caliber, baby. All day.
They used this shot of the plane, I think 4, if not 5 times. And on top of that, the interior shot of this actor in the cockpit does not match with this, which is clearly stock footage. Like in this one, it looks really tight and claustrophobic, and this one looks like a spud head in the cheapest studio on the lot. Then, I don't know much about planes, right? But I'm pretty sure this is an F-18. You see it launching, you see it flying, and then when it comes to shoot the missile down the creature's throat, if you look closely, it's not an F-18 anymore. And what it's definitely not is a fucking helicopter, which is what this looks like. So Admiral Grumpy Pants goes up in a chopper to get a better view of the action, I guess, then almost immediately...
All right, son, get us back down on the deck.
Like, what the f*** was the point of going up in that chopper? Then we've got these guys who turn up and then start firing at the monster, like with these machine guns that don't seem to recoil, like at all. They just stand there in a line, not looking for cover, nothing, just standing there out in the open until this happens. So like I said, the red robot holds the creature's mouth open, the jet fires a missile down its throat, and it explodes. And Red Pilot is suddenly walking around the quote-unquote devastated streets. Like he just parked his robot and wandered off. And I guess Blue and Green do the same too, because they show up here as well. Red Pilot tells them the whole story of how he beat the kaiju.
I got the thing, the monster pinned down on the ground.
Pull in, and you just get spit right out of him.
I'm pinning it, I'm shaking, I'm fighting with him. Spitfire comes in, dude. He's got a full payload.
Drop in and just smack the lip. Whoop!
Comes in close, drops it, nails it.
Drop down, snap.
Boom, boom! Things to kill him.
First of all, we just watched all this shit like not a minute ago. So there's no need to re-explain it all. Second of all, you're surrounded by dead bodies, ones that you probably just murdered when you lasered the hospital.
Boom, boom! Boom, boom!
But Admiral Grumpy Pants is still butthurt that this guy disobeyed a direct order, so he sends this authoritative figure to arrest him. Doesn't he just ooze authority? Anyway, while they are bundling Red into the van, Green goes off to look for a lost little girl in a burning building with his gun drawn for some reason, like he's expecting another fucking kaiju to jump out of the flames at him, And this is what happens when the plot is so thin that they're struggling to make runtime. It's pure, time-killing side quest at its finest, completely pointless to the overall plot. And then he finally does reunite her with her father, and these guys are still there waiting in the van. They've been sat there the whole time.
Way to go, Superfly!
So Michael Biehn gets locked up and we get a time-passing sequence like there's nothing better for the filmmakers to be putting in front of our fucking eyes. Just a solid minute of this guy doing absolutely fuck all before Admiral Grumpy Pants shows up to have the weirdest conversation ever. Like, you're reckless and you're out of control and you belong in a jail cell for the rest of your days, but also I'm really proud of you and you want to go to a party? So he's like, yeah, party! And this dude is like, nah, I'm helping out the Red Cross, sorry, I can't. And she's like, I don't think it's appropriate considering all those people you just killed. And you keep leching on me like the lechiest lech in Lechtown. But he's like, yeah, party! So she's like, okay. And then once they're at the party, he douches off so bad. Look at my medal. She's like, okay, I'm leaving, douche. But he goes, wait, they're playing our song. So she's like, okay. Like, not only does she decide to stick around, but their dance is intercut with 9/11 footage or something and all of the people he probably killed. Like, it's literally footage of firefighters sifting through rubble looking for dead bodies. And then it cuts to them getting all cuddly on the dance floor. It's absolutely mental. Anyway, Eye Patch Guy and Admiral Grumpy Pants have a conversation about how these kaiju come out of eggs that are buried underneath the seabed and how there's probably more of them. At least 2 that they know of. And of course, another kaiju. Not that you would know that it's another kaiju because it looks exactly the same as the first one, comes out of the ocean and attacks. And I guess there is some kind of logic here, like all the kaiju are probably just all the same species, so they would be all the same, like all of a fucking herd of zebras.
Actually, zebras are all unique. Their pattern is like a fingerprint.
Oh, you learned that, did you? You learned that on the builder site, the imaginary builder site, from your imaginary backstory that my subconscious made up for you?
Just saying.
Oh, Dave, we all know that zebras aren't real.
What?
What? With the kaiju being identical just smacks of budget restrictions. Kind of like that scene which I think is at the end of Picard where Captain Riker turns up in his fleet and all of the ships are exactly the same and you know they've just fucking copy and pasted every single ship in there because they couldn't be bothered to design and model new ones. Anyway, then there's another long drawn out scene where Red is in jail still and the other 2 are, we're gonna get you out, and he's like, no, go ahead without me, and they're like, no, we're not leaving without you, and he's like, no, you gotta go without me, and they're like, we're not leaving without you, and he's like, you gotta go, save yourselves. And they're like, no, we're not leaving with it. And then it just cuts and then they're fucking running away. They get in a car and drive off. And then they're just pulling away. When then they stop again, they get out and they see a guy like an MP, you know, military police. And they're like, oh, can we have the keys to the jail cell? And then he gets stomped and it's such a fucking mess. It's all over the place. Anyway, after all that, they decide to look for something to open the door with. And Green finds a hammer and goes to bash the handle off the jail cell door. And it's the most undramatic thing ever. So why they put it in slow motion like this? I really just don't know. Why? But back to the plot, the Air Force finally brings the kaiju down by breaking out a stealth bomber and dropping a full payload on the thing. But in a very quick and easy to miss shot, the slithers away back into the sea. And then it abruptly and weirdly cuts to the pilots drinking in a bar. Now this is the scene which might explain why Missy here is so awkward around Michael Biehn. There was an incident where these 2 made out with each other, but this cokehead is like, whatever, do you know how many of my brother's girlfriends I cheated with? And this is supposed to make it better?
Yes, I drink water through my arms.
But just as they're about to explain that there's more to the story, i.e. booty smushing, Their alarms go off and they get called back to duty, and guess what? This situation is never mentioned again. And of course the alarm was the return of the second monster, but thank God, this time they have a headset with 2 small blinking light bulbs to help them, which will allow them to control the bots with their minds. Apparently these things haven't been tested to be safe, which makes absolutely 0 sense if you dare to think about it, which I would advise against, because if you actually think about this film as you're watching it, you will probably go mad. Then we have some of the best acting as the pilots acclimatized to the neural link. Like, just check this out. Makes landfall in Manhattan, which gives the pilots the chance to test their bots' flying capabilities, and you see a very quick shot of them taking off. Should she be standing that close? Before it cuts to stock footage of military stuff happening, and you don't get to see the fucking robots. And on top of that, we keep getting told that the monster is attacking Manhattan, but the actual shots of the monster are anywhere but Manhattan. Does this look like New York to you? What, did it make landfall up the coast in fucking New Jersey and then take the bus down to New York? We got dead guys blinking, we got repeated shots, and the big twist is that they realize that the damage inflicted on the machine gets transferred to the pilot with this new neural link. And at this stage, they're not sure whether the pilots will survive because, as I said before, no one has bothered to test this shit. Oh. Anyway, just like in Pacific Rim, they pull a surprise melee weapon out of nowhere. But this is no chainsaw. Look, even the robot's like, what the f*** is this crap? And the actors start flailing their arms around like their hearts are really in it. Seriously, it's like watching your auntie playing Nintendo Wii. And before you know it, the president is on the phone ordering a nuclear strike of one of the continent's main cities. And skipping a few deets because this review is going on for ages, after the lamest battle ever, Red grabs the nuke and the kaiju, flies them both into space before kicking it like really, really hard. Check this out. Boing. And then falling back to Earth and lands. Like, I mean, for something that just fell from space, this is the softest landing ever, and Red is... We get the worst fist bump ever. Before they're off to get tequilas. The kaiju are toast, so are the robots. There's no resolution to the relationship issue that was raised earlier. Like, for all we know, she's now pregnant by his best friend. There's no more mentions of the potential other kaiju eggs that may be out there. But you know what? After all is said and done, there are many movies that I have hated more than this. And that's actually the most positive thing I can say. So this movie was never going to be good, was it? I mean, these things are almost specifically designed to not be good. So I guess my overarching thought when it comes to this movie is why? Just why? Both, why would you make something like this, but also, why would you watch it? Some would say it's a parody, but when you think that Scary Movie is a parody of Scream, and Hot Shots is a parody of Top Gun and Rambo, this isn't really the same thing at all. What those movies do is that they recreate the scenes and then add their own stuff too, take it off in an unexpected direction, and that's funny. Whereas this just copies. My best guess would be that this started out as a parody, but then they couldn't be bothered putting any inventiveness or wittiness into it. So that makes it a cash-in. But I do have an answer to the question of why would you watch something like this? Because there is a kind of perverse pleasure in dissecting this and pulling it to pieces and just seeing just how bad they can make it. Like, half the time I was sitting there wondering whether these actors knew what they were a part of or whether they actually thought this was going to be their ticket. Because some of them seem to be actually trying at some point. But the question that I would like to leave you guys with is, if something sets out to be shit on purpose and then does end up being shit, does that make it a success? It's achieved its goal, right? Anyway, you guys, I feel like I've spent more time on this thing than this thing is actually worth. I'm going to do another couple of these mockbuster videos in the near future. I'm definitely going to look at Transmorphers. There's a sequel to Atlantic Rim, which looks like it has a version of Godzilla in there. That could be hilarious. And depending on how those videos do, I might do a few more. I might even look at the Sharknado movies. Put a like on the video if you feel so inclined. I have an absolute blast making these things, and I will see you very soon for the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and cheerio, bye!